right. Happy Monday, everybody. My name is Jason Flame, and this is the Master Motivation Podcast right here on Monday, September 19th. We're excited to have our guest today, and our guest today is Mr. Chris Casamassa, who is a ninth degree black belt in Red Dragon Karate with over 35 years of martial arts experience. He oversees 15 Red Dragon Karate locations in Los Angeles, California. Mr. Casamassa is also a best-selling author, speaker, and business consultant. He has helped hundreds of martial arts business owners around the globe grow and scale their business using practical and tactical systems. In addition to his martial arts career, Chris is an actor and a stuntman who is best known for his role as Scorpion in the movie Mortal Kombat and the related TV show Mortal Kombat Conquest. Welcome to the show, sir, and thanks for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, but this is a long-awaited one for me because we had something scheduled last year, actually, when I first started the podcast, and unfortunately, something came up. Dad wasn't feeling well and had to deal with that. So I was happy to get you rescheduled and get you back on the show. You may not know this, but as a kid, as a younger competitor, I used to go to the Red Dragon karate tournaments, and I used to always watch you compete, and I'd be like, "Dang, that dude is so good!" Like, it's so exciting. And then as we met over the years at the Maya Super Show, and watched you and your career, it's very motivating, it's very inspiring, and that's what I look forward to bringing to the table on the podcast today, is just kind of sharing your experience and your stories with the audience. So once again, thank you for being here.
Oh man, thank you. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to fill it. You gave me such a great intro and little build up there. I'm like, now, I hope it's not all downhill from here.
Well, you know what I love is when we were talking about your name in the beginning, you said a good Italian name. What's it like coming from a good, strong Italian family?
Well, listen, if you've seen any Martin Scorsese film, that'll give you an insight into exactly what it's like to be in a good Italian family. How you doing? How you doing?
Right. Well, it just struck a chord with me because my two favorite movies of all time are The Godfather, and it could be one or two. To me, just the whole Godfather series is amazing. And then Goodfellas. Goodfellas, favorite movie probably of all time. And my wife is 100% Italian. I came from my mom's dad's side is Italian. So, I love that.
Hey, all right, Paisan. How
We
you
got
doing?
Paisan, right? Yeah, how you doing?
Hey,
All
hey.
right, so let's talk about some. Let's talk about just kind of growing up in a martial arts family. You've been doing martial arts for a long time. Watched your dad, build and grow the Red Dragon Karate Association. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, at a very early age, my passion was the martial arts. I fell in love with it. I started when I was 4 years old. So I tell everybody I've been doing it like I count my fingers, 117 years now, in dog years. But yeah, I grew up in it, and my dad was my hero at a very young age, as a lot of kids' fathers are to them. And unfortunately, at that time, my dad didn't know. He was in the Marines and grew up on the East Coast and fell in love with the martial arts and was a cop. He didn't know a whole lot about the business side of the martial arts, so he spent many hours, probably 18, 20 hours a day at the studio. And I wanted to see my dad, and of course, the only way I could see him was to go to karate. So I just kind of started down that path, and I got to go there. And but the cool thing was, my dad told me something at a very young age that stuck with me and has really been the catalyst behind a lot of my success. And he goes, listen, you can start training here at the studio, but you can't stop until you make it to black belt. Now, when you're 4 and your dad says something like that, so you're like, yeah, okay, whatever. But you don't understand what it means until, like, I got to 7 and I'm like, I don't want to do karate anymore. And he's like, no, what I say, you can't quit. I got to 8, boom, 9, boom. Every year I wanted to quit from like 7 on. And then when I was 10 years old, I finally made it to black belt after 6 years of training. And, then when I made black belt, I was hooked. Like, so he knew that that black belt would be motivation, and you've got to stay there. And listen, Jason, you've been doing this for a long time as well. You've seen hundreds, if not thousands, of people start martial arts
Mm-hmm.
and then stop and give up before they reach that goal of black belt. And I've run into so many people over the years. And the
Mm-hmm.
one thing consistently that they never said to me was, I'm so glad I quit karate.
Right.
Right? Said no one ever. Right?
Never.
But the statement is, I should have never stopped. I wish I would have made it. Like, I woulda, coulda, shoulda. So to have that ingrained in me at a very early age, to not give up on something until you achieve that goal, has really served me well in every other aspect of my life.
Hmm. You said a couple things that struck a chord with me as well. You know, your dad was in the martial arts, spent tons of hours working, and the only way to spend time with him was to go to the karate school. You know, my father was in construction, and he built homes and did all kinds of things in that industry, and I felt the same way. I spent a lot of summers going, and I because I hated the work. It's why I didn't go into that field. I
Right.
have another brother who went into the construction industry, and then my other brother, we both went into the martial arts industry. But anyway, it was one of the ways that I got to spend time with my dad is I would go to work with him, and I learned so much just because I wanted to spend time with him. I learned so much about work ethic,
Hmm.
working hard. I mean, he put me digging ditches and sweeping out the houses. Like I did all the grunt work, but there were so many lessons learned at such a young age that carried with me throughout the rest of my life. And then you talked about that very. I think that a lot of karate school owners joke about this and talk about this, but you're right. I've never had someone earn their black belts and say, "I wish I would have quit." And what a skill to have! What a skill to have to know that you can't quit, you can't give up. You know, uh, the only way is going through it, and then you get to your black belt, and you're like, "Wow, this is a whole new world." And it's something that we spend so much time in our schools all the time. I remember years ago, everybody talked about being we're a black belt school, black belt school, black belt school, and I love the concept. But I'm looking back now, thinking I wish we wouldn't have put so much focus on black belt, black belt, black belt, and talking more about lifestyle, the martial arts lifestyle, and living the life. It's easy, in my opinion, it's easy to earn a black belt. It's very hard to be a black belt, right? Would you agree with that?
50%, I would agree with that. I think it's hard. I think it's hard to get to black belt simply because of the one thing that's lacking in a lot of parts of society, and that is dedication and commitment. Right? It's
Hmm.
easy when it's easy, but the true challenge is going over the difficult times and getting through the struggle and the frustration to reach that final goal. And
Hmm.
then, yes, I agree with. It's hard to become a black belt. Right? It's hard to be a black belt, and earning it, I believe, is also difficult, and that's where the struggle ends. And listen, back in the day, it was harder. It was harder when I came up, and every generation probably before me said it was harder, and they do,
Hmm.
but it's true. But that's the evolution of the art. That's the evolution of the business side of what we're doing now. It's still difficult. It's easier than it was, but it is still difficult. And too many people stop, and too many people quit. And
Hmm.
if they stuck with it, they would see the greatness on the other side of what it could be. Plus, look, you and I both know, especially if kids are going to college, what looks great on a college resume? Black belt. Because what
Hmm.
does that say to a college admissions officer? Dedication, commitment, focus, all the things that they're looking for when they're deciding, are they going to admit you or are they going to admit someone else?
Hmm.
It's an easier path to get to that
Hmm.
thing that you truly want.
Gotcha. Yeah. And hey, quick, I'm going to throw this back up there again. Quick shout out. Rick Rando is watching. Guys, go out and check out his podcast, check out his videos. Go to Rando Speaks, like his page. Amazing content. Rick's always putting out good stuff. And by the way, if you guys are watching here live and you have any questions for Chris or myself, please just post it in the comments. Would love to see and hear who is watching us right now. But yeah, I guess, going back, that sounds a little silly to say earning a black belt is easy. What I meant was earning a black belt compared to being a black belt is a totally different thing, right?
True,
Because
100%.
once you earn that black belt, that's I mean, you got to work to not only maintain but to continue to grow. And like you said, the martial arts has evolved so much over 30, 40, 50 years. And yes, I think every generation is going to tell us about walking uphill both ways to school in the snow and all that. But I think some ways, as I'm watching things in school, some ways it's a little bit harder because um, physically, or maybe, in our school, a lot of earning your black belt has to do with community service, leadership skills. There's so many other facets that we've added to becoming a black belt versus just the physical skill. There are a lot of benefits that come along with the physical training, but we as school owners now see the importance of growing the entire person as a whole versus let's make the absolute best physical black belt we can. Would you agree with that?
100% agree with that. And also, listen, when you and I were coming up, there was no such thing as the internet. Yes, yes, folks,
Mm,
I'm that old. There was no such thing. So what we're competing with today is a lot different than what you had to like. I had nothing else to do back in the day. I would spend 5 6 hours at the dojo. I was a dojo rat because like there
hmm
was no internet. If I wanted to go bike ride with my friends or go hang out with my friends, sure, I could do that. But listen, now we're competing with platforms like this and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. We're competing with those things in addition to all the standard things that we compete with on the business side: soccer, football, little league, volleyball, all the other so-called sports that people can get involved with when they actually should be in martial arts. If you're hearing my
hmm
voice, get your kid in martial arts. But so there's a lot more competition out in the marketplace now. The training has evolved. The physical training, I believe, has gotten easier in the sense that we've evolved to how to be better trainers. Right, the martial arts is a war art at its heart. It was built and designed for war, to fight and kill people. But now we're teaching that to 9-year-olds. So we have to teach it to them in a way that makes sense. It's like, hey, don't go out and don't do this on your brother. But it's got to be fun and engaging because we are competing with everything else, and we want them to come back and train and
hmm
get better in that aspect. So there's kind of a yin and yang that's happened over the years, I think, with martial arts and the training of it.
Absolutely. And we have another guest watching, TJ Williams. TJ says that you and Daniel Pacina are his favorite scorpion. He got to meet Daniel, but he has yet to meet you. And he does have a podcast. I know he'd love to have you as a guest, so he may be sending you a message. TJ, thanks for watching. He's got the Kick Pod and the Fit Fighter podcast. He's a fun guy to chat with. So thanks,
Right
TJ,
on,
for
man.
watching.
Hey TJ, you can DM me on Facebook and we'll chat and see if I can get on the show with you. Although I don't know, you said me and Daniel Pacina. TJ,
Uh,
if you want me on the show, dude, it's like Chris Casamassa is my favorite scorpion. Period. Sentence ends. Boom, and I'm on.
All right, TJ, you have another shot to add that comment. Moving on, talking about martial arts. So you started at age 4. You've been training a heck of a long time. You've seen the evolution of martial arts. You talked about your dad working in the business 18 to 20 hours. I mean, we can remember this, right? We'd go in. I thought that it was the right thing to do. That if I got up, as soon as I got up, I was in the karate school and I would not go home until not just the last class, but the couple hour training session afterwards with the instructors or whatever. And then we'd have story time. That was always a big deal in
Yeah.
training with martial arts, right? And so I would be in the school 12 to 15 hours a day myself. And I thought that was the right thing to do. You talk about with business owners and martial arts school owners that you can have a successful business in martial arts and not have to kill yourself, right? I mean, so talk about that a little bit.
Well, the thing I try and teach and preach is there's working in your business and there's working on your business, right? If you're working in your business, you're there because you have to be, and essentially you have a job. And most martial arts school owners, and job, by the way, stands for just over broke, just in case you're curious. So we don't want them to have a job. We want them to have a career and follow their passion. And but most school owners, when we start, myself included, like I didn't know any better. I spent decades learning how to do what I do now so that I have a business that
hmm
I work on, not one that I work in, and one that serves me and my family, right? Everything, my lifestyle, my wife, my kids, their college, cars, everything is paid for by the business that I run, which is what I'm in business for, which is for a profit. But when you're working in the business and you're doing everything from cleaning the toilets to cleaning the mats to teaching the class to answering the phone, you've got a job and you're there because you have to be, not because you want to be. So,
hmm
and the truth, Jason, you already know this because you're doing very well and very successful, and that is systems run businesses. Most people get into it because they love the art, but they don't know anything about business. So what we've done over the years is we've implemented systems for everything. And the saying is we've made running a studio almost idiot proof. If you can read, you can run one of our studios. And if you can't read, as long as you can watch a video, you can run one of our studios because we've systemized every step of it, every process it, so that it makes it easier. It's never easy, but easier to run a business. Instead of doing it by your seat of your pants, you can follow a proven tactical system that gets reliable, consistent results every single time. And the great news is, like, and you know this too, because when I started, I was doing 6 days, some days 7 days a week. right? Now we've got 15 locations. Most of my locations are only open 5 days. They're not open 6. Half of them are only open 4 days a week. Every weekend's a 3-day weekend for them,
Mm.
right? And by the way, if you're a martial arts school owner listening to this right now, I want to tell you something. If you're open on Saturdays and Fridays, you're competing with parents who want to take their spouse out on a date. You're competing with soccer, football, little league, and every other sport that plays on the weekend, right? So there's a mindset shift that we've made. Like, we're a Monday through Thursday location. You want to go a family vacation? You don't have to worry about missing class. You want to go out with your spouse? You don't have to worry about missing class. Your kids playing another sport? You don't have to worry about missing class because we're just not there. Now, listen, some of my locations are open Saturdays because Saturday is a busy day. It all depends on the city
Mhm.
and the thing. And we try and mold it into what the school owner wants for his life or her life or their family
Mhm.
versus trying to fit them into some preconceived mold as far as
Mhm.
what days of the week are supposed to be open.
Right, right, right. And here's my wife is watching. She says, I agree with her 100%. And you said it. Systems are everything. Systems are everything. And not just in the martial arts industry. We've been fortunate to get into some other business ventures. And without solid systems, you're flying by the seat of your pants. And I can remember being a school owner. I opened my school when I was 19 years old, had zero business experience. I loved martial arts. I thought I could teach a pretty good class. Students kept coming back. For 10 years, I run my school by the seat of my pants.
Mm-hmm.
And I was fortunate to meet some great mentors. My greatest mentor was Mike Metzger. Shout out to him. It's his birthday today too, by the way. And
Happy
and Mr.
birthday, Mike. Mike's a good dude.
Mike is, he changed my life. He taught me what systems were, and my school immediately changed. And without those systems, like you said, you're working in your business, not working on your business. I love what I do. I love teaching martial arts because I don't always have to do it. I get to teach it. I have a great team that I've been able to build and that supports our school. Our other businesses have great teams that allow us, this flexibility. So again, systems. And you're right. There's so many different systems and there's so many different models. We happen to teach Fridays and Saturdays, but those are our specialty days. Those are the
Yeah.
days that like really the dedicated people, demo team, leadership, that kind of stuff, they're focused. But I agree, the Monday through Thursday is your core days, and you don't
Right.
have
But
to compete with those
Jason,
sports.
but the flip is you don't have to be there. You
Right.
choose to be there. And
Oh,
that
sure.
is a whole different set of freedoms that allow you to live the lifestyle that you want to live. Right. And that's the thing that I try
Definitely.
and teach martial arts school owners to do. Yeah. If you want to be open 6 days a week, cool. But if you have to be there 6 days a week, that's a
Right.
different conversation. You
Totally.
know what I mean? So yeah, you're 100%. And listen, here's a touch on the systems thing. There are two businesses that I am a big fan of their systems, and I try and copy them. One is Starbucks. If you know
Mhm.
me, I'm a huge espresso freak, and I probably drink way more than I should. I probably have 12 shots of espresso a day. Yes, it's a thing. And yes, I can drink at 10 o'clock at night. I can have a double espresso and go right to sleep. So
Well,
I'm like
if I'm not
way on the
mistaken,
other side of that.
you're drinking a bang right now too, aren't you?
I am drinking. I was going to show you my coffee, but I am drinking a Bang, and this show is not sponsored by Bang.
Right.
But so I'm a fan of their systems because I do travel all over the world teaching martial arts school owners and doing bully prevention clinics. But no matter where I go, whatever Starbucks I walk into and I order my quad shot of espresso, it smells and tastes exactly the same. Whether I'm in New York or in LA, whether I'm in San Francisco or San Diego, it doesn't matter. It's the same cup of coffee. Their
Hmm.
systems are great and they are consistent across the board, as is their brand and their style and their look. I'm a big fan of Starbucks. The other company I'm a fan of is going to throw people off, but I have a great thing that I love about this, and that is McDonald's. McDonald's has systems that allow an 18-year-old kid to run a $1 billion company. Now that's systems. And I love saying that. I'm not a fan of McDonald's foods. I'm sorry. I don't really even eat there. But the way they implement the systems and make those machines run
Hmm.
is admirable. Now I'm going to tell you that to tell you this because I get a lot of hate online and I love the haters. And they go, "Oh, you're just running the McDojo." And that comment, when people go, "You're running McDojo," usually comes from people who are Mick broke and they haven't figured out that systems run businesses and they're too busy working in their business and throwing hate to understand maybe I should get this guy on the phone and learn something from him because I want to help. I love our industry so much. That's why I have coaching clients. That's why I go around the world. I literally teach the insider secrets to how we've survived 57 years to
Hmm.
anyone. And it doesn't matter what style of martial arts that you own, systems run business. How you answer the phone, how you enroll somebody, how you start and end a class, like the basic platform of running that business. Doesn't matter if you're jujitsu, taekwondo, kung fu, wushu, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you have a business that you are in for a profit. Now, if you want to do business for charity, mazel tov, go ahead and do that. I'm in business to make a good living, to take care of my family, and to make a big impact in my community because, Jason, you and I both know this. The martial arts changes lives. Look how your life has changed because of the martial arts. Look what I've been able to do because of the
Hmm.
martial arts. I would have never been able to do that if it wasn't for the martial arts.
No, 100% back you on that. I was just having a conversation with my friend Kevin Kowalczyk yesterday about if it wasn't for martial arts and all that it taught me and all that it helped me learn, I would never have had the opportunities to become a consultant, to take advantage of other business ventures. It would never give me the opportunity to have as much of an impact in my immediate local community as well as the outer reach that we have with our school. I mean, there's so many benefits. It made me think of this a little bit too because you talk about the haters, and man, they're out there, right? And social media just promotes the heck out of that. But so many martial arts school owners. I can remember being in my younger years being immature and being so threatened by other martial arts school owners, threatened by this is how you should do it. When I first heard about a black belt club or a master's club or different programs and upgrades or retail, I'm like, wow, like that's just kind of a lot. But I got to a point where I had someone lay it out for me and share with me and help me grow and help me change and help me evolve, that I feel so responsible to give that back. I was just texting with
Mm-hmm.
Mike Metzger. I said, thank you so much for everything that you've done for me. I hope that I honor you by helping others. When did you find that in your career that you went from the small one location school owner just so focused on tunnel vision to helping others? What made you want to go out and be a consultant and work with these other schools?
Well, because of what I said earlier, like I genuinely love our industry, and I am tired of seeing people that do what you and I do, but struggle and suffer and have to have two or three jobs just to make ends meet when they could make it all at their martial arts studio. So I I'm just doing what I can to help to raise our industry up. Listen, our industry should listen. Cornhole has TV coverage, okay?
That's right.
And we don't. Like there's one or two red martial arts tournaments a year that are on TV, but this is such a great sport and so exciting and so dynamic. So the better our industry does, the better we all do, right? The rising tide lifts all boats. So guys like you, guys like me that are out there trying to raise the level of the tide so that our industry just does better
Right.
is going to help all of us.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree. And Kevin's mom is watching. Hi, Janet. She said there are invaluable systems available for instructors now, and man, that's so true. When you started out, how many mentors, consultants, programs were out there for you to learn from? Not quite as many as there are now. There's so many resources for those school owners out there.
Yeah, and listen, it's good and bad. There's some good coaches and consultants out there, and in every industry, there's a bunch of hucksters and wannabes and pretenders who are taking people's money. I just had a phone conversation with a guy yesterday who told me about all the money he dumped into three different coaches that essentially just took his money and didn't give him a tenth of what I could have offered him and tried to help him. And it's just some of that stuff really breaks my heart. But it's in every industry. There's the good guys and then there's the hustlers. So it's hard to know. By the way, Kevin's a good dude. I've talked to him a few times, and what a talented martial artist that
Oh,
guy is. Now he's getting in
amazing.
the ring and doing stuff. I'm like, dude, he's cuckoo. But I mean, you got to kind of be a little crazy to get in the ring and fight like that.
He did.
Um,
He got in the ring at Karate Combat. He had his second fight. He was just here
yeah.
at the school yesterday working with our demo team. He's an amazing talent. But you know what it comes down to? What I love about him is his values. This is what I love
Mhm.
about people in general is the values and the things that you're saying about helping other people and making it a little bit more about that than the it's all about me. And I've just kind of heard enough It's funny that you talk about, there's good and bad when it comes to consultants. I've definitely seen it. Some of the things that are promoted, some of the things, I just, it's kind of sad to see some of the values lost, where the focus is, martial arts is about helping people, helping our community, keeping people safe, getting people fit and healthy. Um, do we want to make a good career? Do we want to be able to afford the things that we like to have? Absolutely. But when that is how you promote yourself, that you drive this car or this house or that house, I start to get a little turned off by that. It's just kind of rough for me because I just see it from a different view. But you talked about, there's the people that help, and there's the hustlers. It is sad that some people in our industry have been taken advantage of because they're reaching out for help. Some
Yeah,
of them are on their last straw. I had a school owner call me this morning. He's like, dude, I need to get a shot of something in my school. I said, well, you're only 20 minutes from me. Let's have lunch. Let's sit down and let's talk about it. How can I help? And I love when I see that out there.
yeah, yeah. It's we're trying to fight the good fight and help people. And I think it was her name Janet made the comment. There are a ton of systems out there that you can
Hmm.
get, and there's a lot of resources that are out there. And there are some good guys and girls out there helping martial arts school owners do better in their business. And a lot of it, and you know this too as a coach, that one of the biggest stumbling blocks sometimes for a martial arts owner is ego.
Mm.
Sometimes their ego write out checks that their bank account can't cash. And unfortunately, when you let go of the ego, you let go that my way is the best way, then you're open to receive something. And listen, if I could just, I always tell people this, I don't know one way to get 100 members, but I know 10 ways to get 10 members, and I can teach them all to you in like 30 minutes. So
Hmm.
it's just like, instead of saying, oh, this, and the other one, this won't work in my area. I love that one. This
My
won't work in
favorite.
my area. That's like saying you can't make an espresso in San Francisco and one in New York City. Like, oh, espresso doesn't, you can't make that in New York. Yes, you can. If you have the right systems, it can and work everywhere, and everything's adaptable. And as long as you're open and willing to learn, that was my thing. My biggest growth came from the moment when I said, I don't know what I don't know. And I sought out other people who were already winning, who were doing what I wanted, who had what I wanted and where I wanted to go. And I just picked up the phone, because this was also pre-email internet, and I go, hey, I need help. Can you help me? And listen, one of the original guys that helped me move Red Dragon forward was Greg Silva.
Hmm.
Like, he was one of the first OG coaches out there that was winning at 600 members at a school in Florida. And I was like, how the hell is this guy doing that?
Right.
Right. So I give him a lot of credit with at least getting my thirst, or starting to quench the thirst of knowledge of, I know this karate stuff, but I don't know about this business stuff.
Hmm.
And so I learned from him and learned from others, and took all this stuff, and like a big melting pot, you start to put it all together, and you use, it's the Bruce Lee thing. You use what's useful and discard what's useless, and you apply that to your business. Same thing.
That's right. And guys, those of you listening here live, once again, if you have any questions or any thoughts, talk to us. Tell us what you're thinking. But this doesn't apply to just the martial arts industry. This applies literally in any industry. And sometimes you're right. We have to get out of our own way and admit when we don't know what we don't know, and learn and grow. I mean, it's the only way to success is to continue learning and growing. And no matter how much you learn or grow, there's always that next level, because what works now may not work in 5 years. What works now may not work in 10 years.
Especially at the speed of technology, right?
Right.
And you're right about it. It doesn't just apply to martial arts, right? I coach a guy who owns a donut shop, a lady who owns a dry cleaning business, a husband and wife team that own a yogurt shop. And like, the things that we know in the martial arts for
Hmm.
business,
Sure.
they don't even have a concept of it. I
Right.
have to tell them, do you have a Facebook page? Well, no. Oh my God, it's $1 billion
Life
platform, and
changing.
they're giving it to you for free, and people can find you. They can. Yes. So like, little things like that, it just applies to every business and every industry.
Absolutely. Now, You're here in California, right? Your schools are spread out throughout the Southern California area. From where to where are your Red Dragon schools?
Pretty much in the San Gabriel Valley. We stretch from Rancho Cucamonga and Fontana over to Glendora and Azusa, south as far as Diamond Bar. We just opened our first Orange County location in Yorba Linda, California.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, have you lived in California your whole life?
Pretty much. I mean, my dad moved us out here from the East Coast when I was 6 years old. So, yeah, I consider myself a California kid, even though I
Yeah.
wasn't born here. I've
Got
spent
it.
over
Got
half a century here. So, yeah.
it. So you're definitely all California. And now, being in California and being a martial artist and doing real well in the on the tournament circuit and just getting out there, you landed a few opportunities in the movie industry. I see the Batman picture behind you. I see the Mortal
Hmm.
Kombat behind you. How did those opportunities come about, and what were those experiences like?
All right, long story, but I'm going to make it short. So when I was growing up, Bruce Lee, besides my dad, Bruce Lee was my number one hero, and I watched him do stuff on film, and I thought, wow, it would be cool to be able to do martial arts in the movies. How cool! Like he was really the only guy, and then Chuck Norris came along. But it was always a goal that I had kind of in the back of my mind of what I wanted to do. And then I went on the professional tour and competed for a number of years. And I won the one of the championships I won was at the Battle of Atlanta, Joe Corley's event. And I got off stage, and some people walked up to me and they said, "Hey, we're putting together a TV show. Would you be interested in doing it?" And I was like, "Yes, please." And I'd been approached like that by some other things, but in being in California, like you get offers like that all the time. Hey, you want to do this? Hey, you want to do this? And then it doesn't happen. But so that ended up becoming the TV show WMAC Masters, which we
Mhm.
got to shoot at Universal Studios in Florida. And from there, that was kind of my entry point. I had done some small stuff like Shoot Fighter and Revenge of the Ninja, which my dad was good friends with Sho Kosugi. So it was kind of that circle of. And here's the thing for anybody ever ask me: it's not who you know, it's who knows you. And the people I met on those shows went on to do other shows, and that led to my audition for Mortal Kombat, which they told us the roles were all cast. And I would just went into Mortal Kombat to be a background fighter. I'd never worked on a big major Hollywood film at that point, and I just wanted to be in it because it was cool. I loved the video game. Scorpion and
Mhm.
Raiden were my two favorite characters. A big fan of the game. So I went into this audition. I did some stuff, and I wanted to do something that set myself apart. And what happened was the uh, the casting directors were sitting in these folding chairs, and it was just like a tournament. And I had just come off the pro tour, so I was like, "Oh my god, this is right in my wheelhouse." But I go, but there's a lot of good people there. I watched some of the other people go, and I'm like, "Man, these guys are good," but I really want to be in this movie.
Mhm.
So I did my first part of my routine, and I ran at them, and I jumped over them and did a jumping side kick over the chairs. And I just remember, like slow motion, all three of them going like this. And if you're listening to this, you don't see what I'm doing, but I'm looking up, and they watch me. And I did some moves on the other side of them, did a jump back over them, and then finished. I got a call that night and it said, "Hey, we want you to come back." And I was like, "Well, okay." Went back the next day, did some more stuff, but the crowd was like 100 guys the first day. It was like 50 the second day. Third, and then I got another call back the third time. There was just three guys. And I was like, wow, it is really hard to get in to be a background guy in the movies. And so they just kind of filmed our bodies with the camera. And a guy walked over to me and said, "Hey, would you guys mind taking your shirts off?" And this is where kind of my nervousness and smartassness gets me in trouble, because I made this joke. I went, "Well, if it gets me in this movie, I'll be happy to come back to your trailer." See the laugh? That's what I was waiting for. But this guy was stone faced. And
Oh man.
I'm like, "Oh, whatever this is, I'm not getting the part." But so we did it, and they filmed us with their cameras, and I was, I'm trying to keep myself in really good shape. And they went into this football huddle, and the guy walked over, who later, by the way, I didn't know who this guy was. He was the director of the movie. He walked over, he shook my hand, he goes, "Welcome to Mortal Kombat. You're going to be Scorpion."
Wow.
And so it just kind of happened. I was right place, right time. Whatever happened before, my talent got me in the door. My attitude got me through the door, and it just kind of went from there. And from that, I got to do Blade with Wesley Snipes, and ultimately I got to double George Clooney and wear the bat suit in Batman and Robin. So it's been a good run.
How cool is that? So you brought up Revenge of the Ninja, man. A lot of people probably, unless you're a martial artist, you may never know that movie, but that's probably one of the first ninja movies that I ever walked. And I had posters of Shokasugi all over my wall.
Oh
Like
yeah.
he was like a superhero.
Hmm.
How old were you then, and what part? I don't know that I even
15,
remember.
16. Oh, I'm total background. My
Okay.
dad and him have a fight scene because my dad, by the way, my dad was one of Sho Kazuki's really good close personal friends, and he helped him and helped Sho get into the movies and do this ninja thing. My dad kind of introduced him to some people.
Hmm.
So basically, he threw me a bone. And goes, "Hey, I'm going to put your kid in the movie." So I'm in there, but to be on the set for the first time in a ninja movie was like really cool.
That's awesome. And going back, WMAC Masters, that was a Saturday morning staple for a lot of people that loved watching that show. Richard Brandon was on that. Willie Johnson was on that.
Yeah.
Was Mike Chat in that as well?
Mike Chat came in on season 2. It was Mike Bernardo, Hakeem Alston, Herb Perez,
Herb
Ho
Perez.
Sung Pak, me, Jamie Webster. Anybody who was anybody at that time was on that show, which was really cool. They used real martial artists, and the cool thing that I liked about the show was it showcased not just the fighting of martial arts, but the why, like the discipline, the respect, the focus. They had a theme each week. It was literally a
Hmm.
weekly mat chat that we would give with our students about why you show mutual respect or how teamwork and attitude and brotherhood all work together. So it really showcased the core values of the martial arts, and they would wrap each story around it. Fun fact that you brought that up: there are early talks right now of potentially rebooting that series.
Wow. Wow. That would be cool. That
Yeah,
would
there's
be
just a best selling book just came out about it. I just happen to have a copy because the guy just sent it to me. It's like a 300-page book on the original name of the show was Quest for the Dragon Star. This was the pilot, and then the whole history of the show is actually inside this book. Wherever fine books are sold, I didn't write it, but it's a great book. It's called Quest for the Dragon Star. You can get it on Amazon or Barnes and Nobles. Awesome book, and you should get it because when the series comes back, you'll need to know all the insider stuff.
That's right. That's right. Well, we're talking about shows, right? Probably one of the biggest shows in a long time for martial arts, Cobra Kai. Season 5 just dropped,
Love it.
and it's awesome. What are your thoughts on the whole show, from the beginning of it to now, going back to the I mean, for a lot of people, for me, Karate Kid was like the reason, one of the main reasons that I got into martial arts. And I was always, this is controversial, but I was always a Johnny fan more than I like Johnny more than I like Daniel. I just thought, Johnny was cool. And then it turns
Yeah,
out that in Cobra Kai, Johnny really is the good guy.
yeah. Johnny really
So
is the good guy.
what are your thoughts on the Cobra Kai show?
I think it's great. I haven't not watched all 5 seasons. When I reason I said it's great for business because like we ask people, hey, what are you thinking about doing martial arts? Oh, the Cobra Kai series, like so it's been really good for business. So I hope they do
Hmm.
5 more seasons of it because it is getting a new generation of people interested in the martial arts, which is really
Uh,
cool. And another fun fact, I was in the original Karate Kid movie in the tournament scene at the end, in the background fighting. They wanted to make it authentic, and they
hmm.
actually shot that piece at a real tournament
Hmm.
out in, I think it was Sherman Oaks, with Pat Johnson and those guys were all there. So they filmed a real tournament in action to give it some authenticity in it.
Yeah, I think, as a matter of fact, it was at Cal State University in Northridge
That's
is
right.
where I think
Yep.
and that's just right down the street from me. And for those of you that don't know, Pat Johnson, Tong Sudo black belt, is my instructor. Dennis Ichikawa trained under Pat Johnson and Chuck Norris, ran the Chuck Norris schools in the early 70s here in Southern California. So yeah, there's everybody's kind of connected. If you're in
Connected.
California or
Yeah.
Southern California, there's a lot of connections there. Um, let's go back a little bit since we got a little bit more time. Talk about Chris Casamassa in high school, and because you mentioned it a few times. You're a smartass. So
Yeah.
like, did that get you in any trouble in school when you were younger, or did the martial arts keep you pretty focused and disciplined?
No, it kept me focused and disciplined. And here's another thing. In high school, I was a very late bloomer. I was 5 foot 1 inch tall until I was a senior in high school. I was literally the smallest kid in school. And if it wasn't for martial arts, I would have gotten my ass kicked 3 days to Sunday. I'll tell you that right now. Um, Two things helped me out. My dad used to do a lot of demos at the local schools. So when I got
Hmm.
to high school, a lot of people knew your dad does karate and they knew I was in it too. So I tried out for wrestling because judo is part of our core thing. So I'm like, wrestling, easy, done. Like I made the varsity team as a freshman, so it was kind of cool because I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, this is do this, yeah. Let me watch me throw this guy. But I only weighed 95 pounds. I literally was the smallest. That classic image of the wimpy kid. That was me. I didn't grow, unfortunately, until I was after high school, which was a bummer because like I'm like girls, and they're like, you're so cute, but whatever. That's a whole nother side story. But I tried out for wrestling, and the biggest guy on the wrestling team, Brian, knew I was in karate, and he was the heavyweight wrestler. He's 6'2", probably 280 pounds. And he goes, I hear you know this karate stuff. Let me see some. Now we're taught, don't show off, don't do this, don't do that. And I'm like, I'm trying, like, I don't want to. 10
Right.
minutes. The whole wrestling team is around there now. And he goes, I'm just going to hold up my hand and I'm going to have you just kick it. And I go, okay. So he holds it up by his face. The problem was I was nervous and I knew I could kick that high, but I went to kick his hand and I missed his hand and I hit him right in the face with a roundhouse kick. And we were in the gym and it made a sound like, and especially in my head at that time, like it was like an earthquake. And I go, this guy is going to kill me. He's literally going to pick me up and slam me in the ground. He just rubs his face and he looks at me and he goes, good kick. And then I had like a protector from then on. Like he made sure no one would mess with me. It was so cool. And I was like, man, I told him years later, I'm like, I'm so glad you did not kick my ass. He's like, dude, that was so cool, that kick. And you kicked me right in the face. Big old guy. So those two things really kind of helped save me through high school.
How funny. What a good story. It's just so classic how things like that happen. I didn't know that you wrestled at high school. Did you play any other sports?
I did football.
Did you?
Yes, where I rode the bench for 2 years. It was awesome. I still have the splinters in my butt. You
So
can't.
did you
And I tried to be a wide receiver. Like I'm 5'1". How you? Like the
Yeah,
quarterback can't even see me. Like where are you at?
right. Did you wrestle all 4 years?
I wrestled my first 3 years,
First
freshman,
3 years.
sophomore, and junior. Yeah,
What took you away from it?
17, teenage, senior in high school. Finally grew a couple inches. Girls, everything else
Right,
except sports at that point.
right,
Hey,
right.
I even did the dumbest thing ever, which I tell people. I took a year off of martial arts. When I was 17 years old, I thought I knew everything because I was 17. I was a third-degree black belt, so I thought I knew everything about the martial arts. And so I'm like, I don't need this. I took a year off, and it was probably one of the biggest mistakes. I tell people this all the time, that I made. And because when I came back like a year and a half later. Everyone that I was in front of in line had now
Hmm.
passed me up. And I was used to being the number one guy in line, and now I'm like number 4 or 5 in line. And back in that time, rank was the number you counted off in line. It had a big impact
Oh yeah.
on your standing in the school. So now, my dad owned the school, but I wasn't the number one guy anymore. And it took me about 3 years to catch up to those people that passed me. And I'm like, I am
Uh-huh.
never taking a break from martial arts ever again.
It's so often that we hear people tell us that they don't want to tell us that they're going to quit, so they say I'm going to take a break, and I
Mhm.
always ask, okay, if you're going to take a break, when are you coming back? Oh, I don't know. Well, then you're not taking a break. You're quitting. There's a difference,
Right.
right? If you don't have a date to come back, it's not taking a break. I always find that funny when I hear that, taking a break. My son's a high school wrestler. He wrestled his freshman year. Started a little bit before that. Just a little bit in middle school, just doing camps and stuff like that. Played football. He dislocated his shoulder in football and then dislocated it again in wrestling. So he missed. And then with COVID, his sophomore year and his junior year, out the door. And he's a senior this year. He's looking forward to his senior year of wrestling. So that's exciting. Decided not to play football because didn't want to risk the injury. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, but so what was it like? Because I think about this for my son. It's got to be tough, right? My son trains here at the school. He's one of the highest ranks. He's typically first in line, and but dad's the instructor, and I think there's a lot of expectations placed on him that are, a little extra added stress. Did you feel that when you were that age, as a teenager, as a young adult, that you had pressure because dad was the instructor?
No, because I was very naive. And again, I was very maturity wise. I really was a late bloomer, which has served me well because now I'm like 100, but I still look like I'm only 40. But but no, I never felt it when I was in my mid 20s. Moving on, as I started to assume the position of I'm going to lead this company into the next generation of what it's going to be. That's
Hmm.
when I really started to feel the pressure. That's when I really saw all the eyes looking at me, and a lot of it was, oh, you're just able to do this because you're his son. And the one thing I make the point of telling people, the only thing my dad ever gave me was opportunity. And I would argue that he made it harder on me because he knew this is what I wanted. He knew this is what I wanted to do. So he was grooming me for that. And my dad was a little bit of a evil bastard when it came to my training. And looking back on it, though, I'm glad he did what he did, because had he handed me everything, or just put it on a plate for me, I
Hmm.
probably would have screwed it up, and I probably would not have appreciated it as much as I do now.
Mm. Yeah, that's good. That's good to hear. Um, is there anything that we haven't talked about just yet that you wanted to kind of open up and tell the audience, or just kind of leave a message with everybody?
Yes, I like music by Mozart, long romantic walks on the beach, and candlelit
I knew
dinners.
it.
I think we,
Yeah.
dude. I think we've covered it all, man. I don't. Hopefully, we
Yeah.
haven't bored your audience. Hopefully, you kind of entertained. But yeah, man, I think we got it covered.
Well, we have had a very consistent viewer count and lots of comments and reactions to this. So if you guys enjoyed this, please feel free to share it. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Lots of really great guests. I didn't even really mention this to you, or as I usually do in the show. The whole purpose for these videos is that during COVID, I noticed, I scrolling through social media and just a lot of doom and gloom. And sometimes social media can bring out, you see a lot of I don't know. It's just not, it wasn't fun, to be honest. And I said, what can I do to bring more positivity to social media? What can I do to, you know, just add some light to it all? And so I thought to myself, well, gosh, I've been in martial arts a really long time, and I have a lot of people that have motivated me in one way or another, inspired me in one way or another, and would be everybody loves to hear stories, and everybody loves to hear about people's experience. And as we were talking about, helping school owners grow their business, I feel so happy that I can help a school owner grow their business when I know I can cut the learning curve in half. It took me 10 years to get my head out and figure out what was going on. If I can cut it down to 5 years for a school, or cut it down to a year or whatever, how cool is that? Because like you said, uh, we want to help lift our industry up, and martial
Hmm.
arts is, I think, the greatest activity on the planet. Earlier you said everybody should learn self-defense. I just had a conversation in a self-defense seminar. I said there's two skills you should always give your child. One, teach them how to swim, and two, teach them how to protect themselves and defend themselves. And there's no other activity. You can go play soccer, baseball, whatever, and you have a great time. And I love all sports. My son's played them all. I didn't play sports in school, but I've watched him play and I've seen the benefits. But something about martial arts and something about learning how to swim, if you don't have those skills, kind of in
That is
trouble, right?
correct. Listen, if we had more time, I have another interview coming up at 1 o'clock. But if we had more time, I would get on my soapbox and really touch on those two things. So maybe one of these times, hopefully, you don't have to wait a year, but I get back on your show and we will talk about the importance of self defense, especially for women, and the fact about martial arts is not a sport; it is a lifestyle. And it is my opinion that if everyone on this planet studied martial arts for just 1 year, our world would be an amazing place and it would be way better than it is right now. That's the power of martial arts and what it can do for people. It doesn't have to be my style or your style. It doesn't matter. I don't really care. Like, yeah, I want them to train with Red Dragon, or yeah, you want them to train with your school. Cool, but we can't teach. And that's the other thing on competition. When I first coming up, I used to think competition was the guy across the street or the guy down the street. I didn't realize, especially in California, the competition is the sun. The competition is soccer, it's baseball. That's the competition. The other guys and
That's right.
girls, they're competitors. Competitors are good. You got to have competitors because it keeps you on your edge. But I'm
That's right.
competing in California with the weather and with other sports. That's the true competition. And to teach people and educate them about how we change lives really will make a difference in our communities and in the world. And I'm going to drop
Absolutely.
the mic. I'm going to drop the mic on that one.
Boom, and it's
Boom.
done. All right, well, guys, listen, we'll end it on that note. And if you can hang out for just 1 second as I close the show, guys, check in every Monday. I actually have an extra uh, interview this week with Mr. Mike Kraus, one of the top leading youth wrestling coaches in the nation. You won't want to miss that high energy interview coming up on Wednesday. It'll be at 11 o'clock Pacific time, just so you know. But I look forward to seeing everybody back on Wednesday or next Monday. Keep checking the page for upcoming videos. We've got a lot of great guests coming up and a lot of great guests in the past. So, Chris, thank you so much for being here today. Thanks for sharing the time with me. And we will definitely have to do a part two. That sounds good. We'll have to plan
Yeah,
that
we
out.
will. We'll talk about bullying and self defense for women. A whole thing. Promise. It'll be one of your best shows ever.
All right. I love it. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to hit the video and I'll be back in just 60 seconds, Chris.